Hey there, Kyle is wonderful here again. This time with the preview show for the June 22nd, 2022 AEW Dynamite. We're 4 days away from the cross promoted show with New Japan Pro Wrestling that's called Forbidden Door. And wow, just look at this card just off the bat. Looks like another good night of action tonight. We got a lot to get into. I'll also be reviewing my the way I pre-show every Wednesday. So we'll go through all those shows such as Dark and Dark Elevation, Being the Elite, and AEW, as well as the Control Center. So we'll also go through the news. We'll look at the card that Tony Khan put out so far. We'll also look at the Forbidden Door card that's been released so far. And then at the very end, maybe we'll take about an hour here. At the end, I'll go and make sure to see that no other matches have been announced. So we got a lot to cover. Let's just get right into it. Like I said, this is the go home show. We're 4 days away from the Forbidden Door pay per view, and I'm just going to start with reading the preview that they had on AllEliteWrestling.com. And here it is. Forbidden Door is just days away, and the event has rapidly turned into one of the most loaded of the year. On the NJPW event on June 21st, Tomohiro Ishii became the third man to qualify for the All Atlantic Championship four-way match, joining Pac and Miro in the field. While fans also learned that AEW women's title, both the ROH and IWGP tag titles and the IWGP US heavyweight title will also be on the line this Sunday. On top of that, last week also brought Jade Cargill continuing her undefeated streak in a TBS championship defense against a game Willow Nightingale, and the Young Bucks becoming the two-time AEW World Tag Team Champions, while Christian Cage decimated Jungle Boy in the aftermath. Plus, Sting returned on Rampage, Wardlow defeated 20 foes, Moxley and Dante Martin had a tremendous bout, and Sammy Guevara reunited with Chris Jericho. So that was the preview on AllEliteWrestling.com. And here's the card that was released by Tony Khan earlier today. Live tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central on TBS. And they'll be live from not Minneapolis, but what's the M word? Milwaukee. Milwaukee is where they'll be, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And tonight's card, it has Jericho teaming up with Lance Archer. If you remember, Jericho now has a working agreement with Suzuki Gun, with Minoru Suzuki stable in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which Lance Archer is a part of. Of course, we've seen Lance Archer on AEW many times, but Jericho will team up with Lance Archer to take on the two people who will main event Forbidden Door for the AEW Interim Championship. John Moxley will team up with Hiroshi Tanahashi, which is going to be great. And I'm looking forward to that match. I could definitely see that match being the first match of the night. I know that usually almost every Dynamite has like two matches that could be the main event, and they'll definitely put the one that has like the bigger names as far as they've been in the business for like 15 years plus, and they'll try and put that person first to try and get some of the people that might have been watching the Big Bang Theory, which gets about 2 million viewers on TBS just before Dynamite starts. So I could definitely see Jericho and Archer teaming up against Moxley and Tanahashi starting out the show, or it might be the main event. But I think it'll be the first match we see. I think we'll start with like Moxley coming out, or maybe Jericho, and one of those two is going to be the draw to keep people from changing the channel, and then they can talk about the AEW interim title main event at the beginning of the show to really hammer home the pay-per-view this weekend, and then we'll go from there. So that's the first match announced. We're also told that Bryan Danielson will appear live, and if you see here on the little picture that's the preview, it says that Bryan Danielson will address both Blood and Guts next week and Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So I'll get into that a little bit more in the news, but Bryan Danielson will appear tonight, so any rumors or news that's been out there will be put to rest when we hear from the man himself tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, when we get to the news section, I'll talk about it a little bit more. Another match signed tonight is Orange Cassidy in his first match back from injury. He'll team up with Roppongi Vice, that is Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero, and they'll team up against the United Empires, Will Ospreay, and the Aussie Open. We've seen Aussie Open a couple weeks ago, and they were really impressive if you've never seen them before. And then if you've never seen Will Ospreay, we got to watch a really good match last week against Dax. So another one of the match that's going to be a good match. I think it'll be in the middle of the card tonight, maybe the second match or the second to last. But the one I think is going to main event tonight is going to be the All Atlantic title qualifier for the final spot in the four-way match at Forbidden Door. It's going to be Pentagon as Oscuro versus Malachi Black, and this rivalry goes way back over 6 months. So that's why I think this one's definitely going to be the main event and probably the match of the night. They're just going to go out there and tear down the house. Hopefully, nobody gets injured because I really think that they're going to really go out all out and try and lay down a 4.5, 5-star match. They're going to try their best out there. So hopefully they get a lot of time, which is why maybe you want to put it first because the first match of the night usually ends up getting more time than the main event. Which sounds weird, but the first match of the night, obviously nothing can make it cut its time short. When the main event, anything that might happen during the rest of the show might cut time off the main event, as we've seen with like Adam Cole versus Jeff Hardy, for example. But yeah, I'm looking really forward to that match. Could be the match of the night. Could be just as good as any match we might see at Forbidden Door as well. But yeah, I don't even know who's going to win either, but I'm assuming Malachi Black since we've already got a Death Triangle representative in the Fatal 4-Way at Forbidden Door. And then Tony Storm is going to have a warm-up match. Remember, it was just announced last week that Tony Storm is the number 1 contender for Thunder Rosa's AEW World Women's title. And if you remember when Marina Shafir had a title shot against Thunder Rosa was about to get attacked after the match by Marina, but she was saved by Tony Storm. So that's kind of where this match comes from. A little bit of Marina not getting mad that Tony Storm stopped her. So I'm sure we'll see Tony Storm win this one. Hopefully, I know Marina's been trying to work really, really stiff matches. So hopefully Tony Storm can get out of this one without any injuries. There was also rumors and stuff about people thinking that Thunder Rosa was sandbagging Marina in their match. If you don't know what sandbagging means, that means like usually on a move where I lift you up, you're gonna like jump and make it easier for me to lift you. And sandbagging is the opposite, where you make it look you like don't jump and you make it super hard for them to lift you, and you make the move look bad and you make the person look bad. So not to really harp on that, but Marina might be coming out with some fire because she might be mad about that. We never know. So also remember in that little preview they told us that they reminded us anyway that Christian turned on Jungle Boy after Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus lost the tag titles to the Young Bucks last week, and he had a vicious attack Christian did on Jungle Boy, including a one-man concerto. Then there was stuff you can find online. It wasn't on TV because they ran out of time, but there was Jungle Boy's mom and sister who we've seen in the crowd many a times for these shows. Christian's all going up and yelling like, "Your son's a disgrace. Your son's a piece of s." Like, so really good stuff. Maybe they'll show a little bit of that tonight while Christian's coming out, and then Christian will say, I'm guessing a really, really good promo. Christian's a great promo. Christian's a great wrestler, one of the most underrated of all time. I know a lot of people give Christian props, but I don't think he gets enough props for all the things that he's done in his career. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Christian says here and where the story goes from there. But it should include him getting in the ring more often, which is always a good thing. And then that's all that's announced for tonight, which definitely leaves plenty of room for that Pentagon Malachi Black to have some length to it, and B, we should get plenty of surprises tonight. So I'm expecting at least one major surprise tonight that we weren't expecting, maybe up to 2 or 3 major surprises leading up to Forbidden Door, and maybe some more matches announced for Forbidden Door. So before I talk any more about that, let's just go over what the current AEW website has for the card for Forbidden Door, which again is only 4 days away. It's this Sunday. So we've got in the main event for the AEW interim world title, it'll be Jon Moxley and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And they've got announced there will be an IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match at this event. And it will be Jay White, the new champion, only won it, I think only 10 days ago now. So But here's the deal. They have announced that it will be a title match and Jay White will be defending, but it says versus to be determined, TBD. So we don't know who Jay White will fight against. We've been teased that it would be Hangman or Adam Cole or maybe a three-way with both of them. We're not quite sure. I didn't write this down in the news, so I'll say it now. The Super J-Cast, who does a really good podcast about New Japan Pro Wrestling, has some reliable sources where they've been reliable in the past. And the Super J-Cast is having some rumors and saying that Kenny Omega might be able to make this Forbidden Door event, where maybe you could see Kenny Omega in this match here with Jay White. I wouldn't think a singles match, maybe a four-way match with Adam Cole and Hangman, which would be pretty crazy. Or if Kenny Omega is somehow ready for this event, we don't have the Young Bucks in the match yet. So we could potentially have some kind of separate match other than this one with Jay White. There could be a separate match announced with maybe a six-man tag with the Young Bucks teaming with Kenny Omega. So that would definitely be one of the major surprises if Kenny Omega comes out tonight, or if we even get news about Kenny Omega. So that's one potential surprise tonight. But another surprise tonight in general, it's not really going to be a surprise because we know Jay White is going to defend the title, but we don't know against who and how many people. So that's one of the things to really look forward to tonight. Of course, it's the brand new All Atlantic Championship, AEW All Atlantic title will be decided. The first ever champion will be decided in a four-way match that includes Pac, Miro, Tomohiro Ishii, and then the winner of the Malachi Black versus Penta Obscuro match that'll be tonight. Tomohiro Ishii was the winner of a four-man tournament that happened Monday and Tuesday. You can find the reviews of those entire New Japan shows here on my channel. Really, really good matches. A lot of people didn't even care about those matches. I don't even think New Japan fans cared at all that they were going to watch those matches. They just pretty much took it as, oh, here's four guys that were thrown together for a little mini tournament just because, just to give an excuse to get Ishii to America for this match. Which, when they announced the four names, it was pretty much clear as day that Tomohiro Ishii will be the winner of the tournament, but it didn't. I knew that it was probably going to include some pretty good matches, which it did. It made the two cards that those matches were on. So Monday we had the semifinals, and yesterday we had the finals, and that's where Tomohiro Ishii was able to defeat the only American representative out of the 10 people that had a chance to go to this four-way. There was only one American representative, and it was over in New Japan. It was Clark Connors, who was a New Japan LA Dojo and their New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong TV show that they tape here in America. He's on that a lot, but Clark Connors was over in Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, a month-long tournament for the junior heavyweights. And I think because of that, they just asked Clark Connors, hey, can you stick around a little bit longer? And that turned out to be really good. Clark Connors had a really good semifinal match, defeating Tamaki Hanma. And then Clark Connors had a really good match yesterday against Tomohiro Ishii, but ended up losing. But we almost had an American representative in this mostly international qualifying for the All Atlantic title. So there was in total 8 different nations representative, one from each, except for Japan had 3 representatives over in New Japan. But then the one out of the 4 was an American. So that's the little update. If you want to hear more about that, like I said, I have all the New Japan reviews on this channel as well. So I'm really looking forward to that match. Basically, we think it's going to be Malachi Black joining that match, which means all at the same time, we're going to see Miro and Ishii, who basically have the same body size and style, just completely hammering each other like a slobber knocker, having a slobber knocker, while over here in the corner, Pac and Malachi Black are going to be doing crazy high spots. So all at the exact same time with a little bit of intermixing between the 4 men. But yeah, that's what we're going to see, and that's going to be potentially a match of the night. We don't know what the Jay White match is going to be yet, but that match is going to be crazy. Another match that was announced last week, to a surprise of a lot of people, and I'll go over in the news section why we might have Orange Cassidy might have been the person selected, but it will be for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, which you can kind of think as the number 2 title as far as singles heavyweight wrestlers in New Japan, now that the Intercontinental title has been merged with the world title. But yeah, it'll be the champion Will Ospreay who won the title. It was supposed to be a three-way, so this is pertinent information. Excuse me, this is pertinent information because Will Ospreay won the title at Dominion, the second biggest card of New Japan of the year, just a couple weeks ago. And it was supposed to be a three-way match that included Juice Robinson, the champion, coming into it, defending against Will Ospreay and Sonata. And Juice Robinson had emergency appendicitis surgery to get his appendix removed and could not make the show. And they New Japan Pro Wrestling stripped Juice Robinson of the title, turned it from a three-way to a singles match, and the two challengers will now be awarded the new title. But here's the kicker: Juice Robinson had the only title; they don't have a backup title. So when Will Ospreay won that match, he wasn't presented a title, and he was visibly upset about that fact and said that this is a joke kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you gonna not award me how do you not have the title kind of deal? So why I'm telling you all this is Will Ospreay is gonna come into this match against Orange Cassidy. He still doesn't have the US title, and just yesterday Juice Robinson released a you could call it a promo on social media. It looked like he was still wearing his hospital gown, which could be a work. I think the whole thing's a work, but it was Juice Robinson in a hospital gown, basically saying that he thinks it's BS that Ospreay is the champion. Ospreay's not the champion in his mind because Juice Robinson holds up the U.S. title and says, "I'm the champion. I have the title. You're not getting it back. I'm not going to give it back to you." So that leads me to believe that we probably will see Juice Robinson. If not tonight, then we will see him at Forbidden Door. Maybe after the match, he'll attack. I'm assuming Will Ospreay will retain the title against Orange Cassidy, and then maybe after the match, Juice Robinson comes down and attacks Will Ospreay from behind with the title or something. So I'm expecting something like that, but it's definitely something to look forward to. You can go find that promo that Juice Robinson cut online on social media. And if you're wondering, if you were like me, why is it Orange Cassidy in this match against Will Ospreay? Isn't there like anyone else on the roster that could have been a little bit better of a matchup? No offense to Orange Cassidy, but he's mostly seen as a comedy character. I know we can throw down some good matches here and there, like that lights out match against Adam Cole. He pretty much took seriously, and this should be a good match. Will Ospreay can have a good match with just about anybody, but the rumors and news coming out is that this match was supposed to include Andrade El Idolo versus Will Ospreay, which sounds like way better of a match. But unfortunately, Andrade was not able to be in this match, and I will let you know more in the news. I wrote it all down in the news section, which is next, so you won't have to wait long. But yeah, it was supposed to be Will Ospreay versus Andrade El Idolo, and then we've also got Juice Robinson maybe threatening to show up on Dynamite or Forbidden Door because he still holds the US title. So that should be a good one. So far, the only match announced for Forbidden Door that doesn't involve any New Japan wrestlers is Thunder Rosa defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Toni Storm. And that's to be expected because New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't have a women's division. They have a partnership with Stardom, but they do not have a women's division themselves. So Thunder Rosa will defend against Toni Storm. That should be a pretty good match. I don't know who's going to win. Every time Thunder Rosa defends, I'm unsure if she's going to be able to retain it. It just seems like, despite AEW giving her the title, that they still don't fully respect her. So I even thought she had a chance to lose the title against Marina Shafir on that random match a couple weeks ago. So that's how little confidence I have in AEW having Thunder Rosa win. But we'll see what happens. It should be a good match. And again, like I said, we'll see if Toni Storm can get out of tonight's match unscathed, because Marina Shafir not only is a little mad about the Thunder Rosa match, but she always wrestles stiff. So we'll see what happens there. We've also got in a three-way tag match. This one definitely another potential for match of the night. It's two belts on the line. Winner takes all. One fall to a finish. Ring of Honor World titles and IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles on the line. It'll be FTR, the Ring of Honor champions, versus United Empire. That's Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. Remember, they showed up just before Double or Nothing and attacked Dax and Cash, as well as Roppongi Vice, setting up this whole match. But in the meantime, Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb regained their IWGP heavyweight titles at Dominion. They were the champions before that and got them back after like only a couple weeks to a month's time. So two titles on the line, one fall to a finish. Roppongi Vice will be the other ones in this match. That's Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero, of course. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I have no idea what's going to happen now that both the Ring of Honor and IWGP titles are on the line. I have no clue. Literally, any three of them could win, because I could see FTR. I could see IWGP being fine with FTR with the titles, especially as we're about to go into G1. If you don't know, G1 is the biggest tournament pretty much in the world, and it lasts an entire month-long tournament where it's a group stage where you fight everybody else in your group and then go to the knockout stage. So that's a month-long tournament where all the singles and even Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb are in the G1. So there really isn't going to be a lot of title defenses for the IWGP tag titles in the next month or two. I don't think G1 doesn't start for another couple weeks, and then it lasts all the way until about August 18th, August 20th, somewhere around there. So we're looking at like 2 months down the line before the IWGP titles might be required again in Japan, which leads me to believe that we could see FTR win the IWGP tag titles here. And hopefully that means we'll get to see FTR over in New Japan, maybe drop them back to whoever New Japan wants them to at a later date, maybe at the end of the summer. That would be ideal for me. That's exactly what I want. But United Empire, I could see them winning the Ring of Honor tag titles. And I could also see Roppongi Vice walking out of there with both of them. Roppongi Vice are veterans of ROH and IWGP both. So, although Roppongi Vice did get gold tag titles a lot in IWGP, I mean New Japan, but they were a junior heavyweight tag title. So that makes me think maybe they're not going to give the IWGP heavyweight titles to Roppongi Vice, because they kind of think of them as junior heavyweights. But the whole junior heavyweight thing isn't really like a strict weight limit type deal. You can become a heavyweight just by them saying he's now a heavyweight kind of deal without really adding any weight or size. So that one that one's going to be fun, because A, everyone in it is really good, and B, absolutely no clue who's going to win. How many times do you get that in a match where it's 33% for each team? To do my quick Steiner math, 33% for each team to win that, and 1% that nobody does, like a no contest type deal. And the last match announced so far, the 7th match. So 7 matches have been announced. And remember, one of those isn't really announced. It's just been announced that the IWGP World title will be defended by Jay White. We don't know what kind of match, how many people, and against who. But yeah, 7 matches have been announced. And the other one, remember, is the trios match, or the 6-man tag. Chris Jericho teaming with Sammy Guevara and Minoru Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. And you guys might not know who Shota Umino is. He's not a big star in New Japan. He is he's a youngster. I remember he was a young lion not that long ago, maybe 5 years ago. He's been building himself up. He wrestles here in LA for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, that show I was talking about that's taped in America. He wrestles there a lot. He's the head referee for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Everybody nicknamed calls him Red Shoes because he wears bright red shoes, unlike all the other refs. But this is Red Shoes' son, and this goes back. The reason Shota Umino's even in this match is because Chris Jericho kind of mentioned it, but you might not know what he was talking about. Red Shoes was the referee for Chris Jericho's match when Jericho was there. Jericho was being a huge heel, just like out of control type heel. So at one point, Chris Jericho beat up Shota Umino in front of his own father, and to get some major heel heat, which worked. So that's the 4th match. I mean, 7th match announced. We'll see if any more are announced. I could definitely see up to 3 more matches being announced. Screw it. Let's have a 10-man match card. But yeah, I would think at least maybe 1 more or 2 more matches, but maybe up to 3. And we'll see what happens tonight. That's part of the reason I'm really looking forward tonight. But now we're in the news section. We got to talk about those ratings first. You knew I was going to get there. If you haven't heard, ratings have been some of the worst all year last week. So Dynamite went down to 7,601. I mean, 761,000 viewers for the Road Rager last week. That's down an entire 19% from the week before. And if you remember, Dynamite was getting close to a million for most of the beginning of the year. It had been going down a little bit since then, but almost a 20% drop in 1 week, down to 761 viewers. Rampage on Friday averaged 331,000 viewers, by far its lowest viewership for when it's on its regular 10 o'clock time period. And that was down 30.5% from the previous week. So wow on that one. Before we get into the reasons why, first of all, I have to say there's never ever a true, and there never will be a true way to find the reason why. You can't call everybody in America and ask them, why didn't you watch Dynamite? Like, what were you doing? What, you can't call everyone and say, what were you doing at Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern? Oh, why weren't you watching Dynamite? Did it ever occur to you to watch Dynamite and stuff like that? So you never know a real reason, but I've been thinking about this a little bit, and this is, of course, people have been talking about ratings for decades before AEW was even born. So I've been through all this before, but let's go through. I think probably the main factor, you're probably already guessing it. All the injuries slash people not on the show that were on the show only a couple months ago and a month ago, but have now been missing for about 3 weeks now. And I'm talking about CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and MJF. Those are three of your biggest stars on the roster. All three go out at about the same time. Two of them with unfortunate injuries. The other one seemingly in a storyline where they wanted to keep them away until Forbidden Door ends. So I assume we'll see MJF after next week's Dynamite, maybe even at Forbidden Door to mess something up for Tony Khan. Maybe he'll mess up the AEW interim championship match. That's a possibility, but they definitely need to get MJF back on television. As far as maybe other factors on the television show, maybe they didn't quite capitalize on the Wardlow train and hype as they should have, putting him in this weird feud with seemingly against a non-wrestler, Smart Mark Sterling. So Wardlow came off of that really, really hot feud just to go into a feud with a manager and a bunch of jobbers. So hopefully they can find Wardlow something for him to do. Maybe we won't even see Wardlow tonight, but maybe Wardlow will have a match at Forbidden Door. We don't know. So that one could go either way. But that's factor number one, is like the injuries and maybe some of the creative, as far as like they kind of dropped the boat with Wardlow so far. Another one of the major factors is all this New Japan stuff. Now, me and the other neckbeards around here, as people like to call us, neckbeards is just a term for super hardcore wrestling geeks, which I'm a geek for, like history. I'm a geek for sports. I could tell you who was in the World Series in 1968 and stuff like that. Like who was the MVP for the last 40 years, and so I mean, it's just their term for calling us nerds or whatever, but um I love it. I absolutely love it. I've been following New Japan since like 2015, and I just love the interpromotion stuff. And but I can understand, and I've heard people say I try to keep a close ear to the ground to get a general person's reaction, not the like the forbidden or the unicorn that is the casual fan, but more just like, I don't know, someone that's not quite a nerd as me, or that's going to go watch New Japan and indie promotions and stuff like that. But it really is. They've been throwing a lot of information in their faces these last 3 weeks or so, where I could see why people maybe after the week before last week might have been like, all right, that's enough. I know that Forbidden Door is coming up in 2 weeks. I'll come watch AEW again in 2 weeks when Forbidden Door ends, because this NJPW that and this IWGP this, and what are all these new titles, and oh my gosh, what's an All Atlantic title, and who's this guy's name, and what faction is he from, and he's fighting who? This guy's a legend, or is he a rookie, or are they a tag team, or are they going to be at Forbidden Door? So if you don't know any of this stuff, it really was a lot of information in a short amount of time with probably Excalibur talking like this, and can you believe that they're going like this, and then it's just too much overload for someone that's not really a geek or a wrestling nerd, such as myself and some of you. So I can completely understand that. That's probably a huge factor. Of course, nothing really there's really no one factor for anything. It's definitely like if they were regular viewers of AEW, they might have been it might have been a combination of all this information overload of people I don't know and acronyms and names and stables combined with the well also CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and MJF aren't on the show, so I think this is a perfect time for me to maybe go do something else on my Wednesday nights. I'll pick it back up after Forbidden Door. We'll have to keep a close eye. I'm assuming the viewership will be down again this week, and it'll be really important. It's really good that AEW seemingly already thought this through and has been planning a big event, Blood and Guts, for right after Forbidden Door. So a lot of those people probably said, "All right, I'll come back and I'll watch Wednesday when Blood and Guts happens." So there is a huge event planned. I mean, a huge match planned for just after Forbidden Door, and I'm sure we'll get like MJF and stuff like that as well. So I'll expect viewership to be back up for after Forbidden Door. But there's other factors than that. There was a big Stanley Cup hockey game on. It's just beginning of summer, where a lot of people still didn't really have a full summer because they didn't want to go out because of COVID last year. I know COVID isn't completely gone, but people might have been for having their first summer after 2 years of not having a real summer. So that might be part of it. The cost of living has gone up tremendously. The cost of gas, the cost of like a loaf of bread, everything is just up. So people might be cutting down their cable, getting rid of cable, going over to Pirate Bay and watch wrestling, to watch streams illegally, just because they don't have the money right now, and that wouldn't necessarily get factored in the ratings. I think that might be a factor. And another factor is ratings, and to combine those ones I said, like the summer and the cost of living, and maybe people getting rid of cable and streaming services even more to go to Pirate Bay and watch wrestling on the internet. And the reason I say maybe that is because the ratings throughout every network on television throughout the last week or so has been tremendously down. So the ratings are down throughout all of television. So all of these factors tell me it's nothing to really panic about. It's nothing to really worry about. Of course, people that watch like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, they never worry about the ratings. So a lot of us shouldn't really worry about the ratings either. The only time people ever really worry about ratings if they were watching like a show on NBC, if they were worried about it getting canceled. I don't think we're anywhere close to having to worry about Dynamite and Rampage having to get canceled, but I definitely think they need to start doing a little bit better work with Rampage. Um, Definitely, there's a few things that they could do to make that a little bit better. All right, and like I said, I think we'll see MJF at that Blood and Guts show, maybe even interrupting the AEW title matchup at Forbidden Door. But yes, let's get to the Bryan Danielson rumors. It was Brian Alvarez that was reporting that Bryan Danielson got injured in the Anarchy Arena match. So these are not confirmed. These are rumors at this point reported by Brian Alvarez. He said that Bryan Danielson got injured in the Anarchy in the Arena match, and that Bryan Danielson is set to miss the Forbidden Door and the Blood and Guts event. So bad news on that front. One of the things everyone was looking forward to the most, and they even teased it on Rampage by bringing up his name, is the Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson match. Basically, the two best technical wrestlers in the entire planet. And I said early on that I didn't even care about anything on Forbidden Door as long as I got that match. I wouldn't even care about the other matches as far as they could do whatever they want. If I didn't like it, I didn't care as long as I got Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. So at the Dominion card a couple of weeks ago, Zack Sabre Jr. did call out Bryan Danielson in his backstage promo. And of course, ever since Anarchy in the Arena, we have not seen Bryan Danielson. So we were told that Bryan Danielson will be there tonight. And as you can see on the little graphic, it says he's going to address Forbidden Door and Blood and Guts. So that tells me it's not the worst case scenario. It's not going to be one of those where Daniel Bryan's coming out to retire. So you can take a deep breath there because that's definitely not going to be it. But I do believe, and I think maybe at this point it's a 60% chance Bryan Danielson's going to come out tonight and tell us that he's going to miss those matches. But I still believe that there's a 40% chance because think about it. Why would they bring up Zack Sabre Jr.'s name on Rampage if it wasn't going to, if they already knew that there was maybe not going to get that match? Why would you tease it? So I'm thinking maybe almost 50% chance that Bryan Danielson's going to come out and say, I'm ready to fight Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door, and I'll be there to fight Jericho Appreciation Society at Blood and Guts. So I think almost a 50% chance that we might be getting that. But there's a probably like a 55% chance that Bryan Danielson's going to come out and say that he cannot attend those events. So we'll just have to wait and see. There's no reason to speculate on it anymore. Maybe it's just like 50-50 chance at this point, and that'll be one of our major surprises is that we will indeed, and I hope we get Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. If we don't get it now, at least we should eventually get it at somewhere. So, but you never know. Things can happen. Somebody might get injured, and when he gets back, the other guy gets injured, and then the other guy stops wrestling, and the other guy goes to a different company where they can no longer wrestle. So you never know. We're gonna get this dream match now. It was going to be the match of the night at Forbidden Door, and it was going to make the entire event worth it. And we might still get it, so don't get too worried yet, but we might not. Another thing to report in the news, you might have seen Adam Cole pretty much trends on Twitter every single day. So many people are talking about Adam Cole. There's been a long-term dispute between. It's seemingly there's nobody in the middle ground when it comes to Adam Cole. They either love the man or they dislike the man. And I think a lot of people, especially the people on the side that love Adam Cole, can't separate the wrestler from the man. I'm one of those people that dislikes, I might almost even say I hate Adam Cole, but that only means I don't like the wrestler. I think he's boring to watch. I don't like watching him. That's everything in wrestling is the eye of the beholder. The beauty is in your own eye. If you like someone, like them, like don't. But you should also allow me to say that I prefer I did not watch Adam Cole on my television screen. I thought he ruined New Japan. I thought he ruined NXT, and now I think he's kind of ruining AEW. That doesn't mean that I hate the person or the man behind the wrestler. I think Adam Cole, as a real life person, is funny. He's very nice. He seems like a great guy, someone I would hang out with and play video games and have a beer with, but I don't want to watch him on my television screen when I'm watching a wrestling show. That's just my personal preference. And I think the people that love Adam Cole can't get it through their minds that when like someone like me says that they don't like Adam Cole, they think I'm talking about the person. Like, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but the other side of it is then Adam Cole started trending again yesterday because Booker T in his podcast, who's clearly a WWE shell. Now I don't pick sides. I love all of wrestling. I'll of course say that I don't like Vince's creative, and I haven't liked Vince's creative for about 20 years. But I still watch WWE. I watch AEW. I watch NJPW, Impact, NWA, and I think I'm missing one, but I love all of wrestling. So it's nothing about that. But Booker T was getting a lot of hate online. Kind of just rightfully so because he was doing the whole. I think Adam Cole needs to get in the gym. He looks a little too small. Stuff. I don't really want to get into that discussion either. It's just it's inappropriate for Booker T to do it. He's clearly a shill of WWE at this point. Everyone pointed out that Booker T wasn't saying that about Adam Cole when he was in NXT. And again, that's where a lot of people in the divide and the schism between Adam Cole appreciators and haters are people like, oh, well, you didn't say that about him when you were in WWE. Well, I literally stopped watching NXT when Adam Cole really got into like really only a few months after Adam Cole got the NXT, I stopped watching it because I could read the writing on the wall. And when I checked back in towards the end, I think I watched the Adam Cole Kyle O'Reilly match towards the end of both their NXT careers, and it looked like I was exactly right. It looked like Adam Cole and the rest of the Undisputed era just completely dominated NXT during that era. And I like Red Dragon, I like Roderick Strong, but I do not like Adam Cole. All right, moving on. There was a couple big matches featuring AEW competitors over the week. As you know, a lot of them have the ability to go wrestle in pretty much any promotion in the world they want to, with the exception of like WWE. But one of the matches of the week, a sleeper hit. It was at the Prestige Wrestling event over the weekend, which also saw on the undercard a really good 20-minute match between Dark Order's Evil Uno and Allen Five Angels against the tag team of PP Ray. You might not know who PP Ray is, but it is Pretty Peter Avalon and Ray Rosas. They've formed a team in the Southern California area long time ago. I was watching them in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood many years ago. Uh, and that was like a 20-minute match, which was really surprisingly good. It's been a while since I've seen like PP Ray in a 20-minute match. But the main event of that Prestige event was one of the matches of the week. It was Lee Moriarty versus Kosuke Takeshita, and definitely go try and find that match. Two of the younger biggest hits. We haven't seen Moriarty on AEW in a while, but we have been seeing Takeshita a lot. So go check out that match from the Prestige over the weekend, if you want that Evil Uno and Allen Five Angels versus PP Ray. We only had one representative, as far as I can remember, from Slammiversary, the big Slammiversary Impact Wrestling's pay-per-view 20th anniversary show over the weekend, this last Sunday, and it was Frankie Kazarian. He was in one of their big matches, a TNA Originals versus um, basically old Ring of Honor guys. And that was a big match. There was a surprise announcement. It ended up being a very disappointing announcement of Davey Richards, but everyone was hoping it would be people like Samoa Joe or even Christopher Daniels. But nope, Frankie Kazarian, who was announced early on as part of this feud and has been wrestling on Impact Television for the last month or so, was the only AEW representatives. Not even a video sent in by Samoa Joe or Christopher Daniels, for example. We did get a video sent in by Sting, so he was there as in video form. But Frankie Kazarian, the only one on the card. So seemingly, it seems like the Impact and AEW partnership, while still there because Kaz was there, like I said, it's kind of only hanging on by a thread at this point. Otherwise, you would have thought Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and maybe even Sting would have been there if they could have. So maybe something might have happened along the way with the whole Kenny Omega, and maybe Kenny Omega having to lose to Christian or something like that. So we're not quite sure what's going on with that, but maybe hanging on by a thread at this point. Also, there was a AAA in Mexico had one of their Triple Mania cards. They've been doing multiple Triple Mania cards, not just one for this year. And that saw a bunch of AEW talent on it. Ray Phoenix won a big 5-way match for 2 different titles. So in the 5-way match that Ray Phoenix won was Laredo Kid, Taurus, Bandito, and Hio del Vikingo. And Ray Phoenix was able to win the AAA World Cruiserweight and the Latin American Championship in that match. So congrats to Ray Phoenix. I wonder if we'll ever see those title belts on AEW television, but I'm assuming not, because right now there's like 25 different title belts on AEW television. We also, right after that match, Blue Demon Jr. beat Pentagon. So the Lucha Brothers were both in individual matches, Ray Phoenix having the better night over Pentagon. And the main event was supposed to feature the Hardy Boys. Unfortunately, Jeff Hardy had to get pulled from that card. I hope Jeff Hardy gets the help he needs. But subbing in for Jeff Hardy was Johnny Elite, John Morrison, whatever you want to call him. He came out at this event as Johnny Hardy, and he did the Hardy Boy dances and stuff along with Matt, and they ended up losing to Dragon Lee and Draglistico, and that was probably a really good match. So a lot of AEW talent having a good week outside of AEW. Doesn't look like any major injuries to report, thankfully. And speaking of AAA, you might remember that I talked about how that Will Ospreay United States title match was supposed to be against Andrade at Forbidden Door. However, we found out last week, and maybe like 8 or 9 days ago, that AAA put a stop to, well, no, let me rephrase that. CMLL requested to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling had to agree with them because of a long time partnership between CMLL, the rival of AAA in Mexico. There's a long-term partnership between CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we found out that Phoenix, Pentagon, and Andrade were banned from appearing at Forbidden Door. So we will not be seeing Andrade, Ray Phoenix, or Pentagon, which, come to think of it, that completely spoils the match for tonight. So we know for a fact that Malachi Black will win his match against Pentagon tonight because Pentagon's banned from being at Forbidden Door. So that kind of sucks. But we all already kind of assumed that Malachi Black was going to win. But anyway, spoiler alert. Sorry if that spoiled it for anybody. But yeah, we also heard a rumor that Will Ospreay was originally going to fight Andrade, and that sucks because Andrade versus Will Ospreay would have been amazing. The messed up part about that is Andrade has only ever had a few matches in AAA. I think he came up in CMLL, and that's why CMLL has a thing as an agenda against Andrade, because Andrade last wrestled in AAA now that he returned to Mexico. So I think that's where that stems from. But unfortunately, unfortunate for Andrade, but fortunate that it now gives Orange Cassidy a big spotlight. Maybe people in Mexico people in Japan might even discover Orange Cassidy, and it might get Orange Cassidy booked over in New Japan. They might be like, we want to see this guy, Orange Cassidy. So bad for Andrade, but it does next man up. Orange Cassidy might be able to get the best of that. And then just to round out our news, a little bit of New Japan news. I kind of talked about it already, but those 3 matches for the qualifier where Tomohiro Ishii won were all great. All 3 of those matches. So the Monday card, which featured the 2 semifinals, is free on NJPWWorld.com. No sign up required. So go watch those matches, and including the match right after it is for the junior heavyweight tag team titles. So that was the next thing in my news. We've got new IWGP junior tag team title champions. Also from the United Empire, but a couple of guys from the United Empire who we haven't even seen on AEW yet, despite us already seeing Will Ospreay, the Aussie Open, and Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb. So we've seen 5 different members of the United Empire on AEW television so far, but there are a few others that we haven't seen. 3 of them. Aaron Hanari is one of them, but the other 2 just won the junior tag team titles. TJP, as everyone knows, TJ Perkins. He's been in every company in the world, WWE included. And then his protege and tag team champion partner, Francesco Akira, who hails from Italy. So maybe a chance that we see TJP and Francesca Akira either on Dynamite tonight or on Forbidden Door. And we speaking of the junior titles, we also had yesterday, the main event was Taiji Ishimori, the Bone Soldier out of Bullet Club, retained his IWGP Junior Heavyweight title against Hiromu Takahashi, and then Kushida returned to challenge to be the next challenger for Ishimori. So Kushida just returned about 30 hours ago at the New Japan show, fresh out of getting released from NXT. Kushida thankfully got released out of NXT, one of the few holdovers from the Black and Gold era. Basically, there's only one left, and the only remaining Black and Gold guy is Roderick Strong, and WWE refuses to release him from his contract. Roderick Strong asks for his release. Of course, his wife Marina Shafir will be on the show tonight, as well as his best friends from the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole and Red Dragon, are all over this show. So poor Roderick Strong. He's stuck being the coach for people that have only had like 10 matches in their career. But someone's got to do it. Unfortunately, it's Roderick Strong. Hopefully he's getting paid well. But yeah, I bring all that up because we haven't heard any word about the junior tag titles, the junior heavyweight titles, any of the junior heavyweights for Forbidden Door. Again, going back to, we don't have any Young Bucks matches scheduled. Some of the most decorated junior heavyweight champions in IWGP history are the Young Bucks. So I could potentially see A potential match being TJP, Francesco Akira, defending the IWGP Tag Team Championships against Young Bucks, and maybe a title for title match, including the AEW tag titles on the line, but maybe not because see, it's still always tricky who you can have to agree. You've got two different companies that neither of them really want their guys to lose against the other. So you have to make like, all right, if you do this, then you can do that, but you can't have that title and you can't beat this champion, or this will be a non-title match then. So there's a lot to work out, but another thing to just kind of keep in mind, maybe we'll see something about Taiji Ishimori, the junior heavyweight champion, or we might see more than the 5 United Empire members. We might see TJP, Francesco Akira, or even Aaron Hanare, who's been on a roll. So, just to round out the news, there's been no new news on CM Punk or MJF. Uh, no news is good news as far as it comes to CM Punk, and as far as MJF, they just try. AEW is just trying their best to really sell this storyline that MJF is like pretty much almost fired. But like I've been saying over and over, I'm sure we'll see MJF at the very least next week at the Blood and Guts event here in Detroit, my hometown. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but I will be here to cover the show. And maybe I could definitely see MJF coming and just making it a no contest for the AEW Interim Championship, and that's where the big storyline going out of Forbidden Door is MJF screwing over the entire AEW company and embarrassing AEW in front of Japan. So I definitely think that's what's going to happen. So I still got a lot I want to talk about. I'm basically going to review all my different things I do for the pre-show. So my personal pre-show is what I meant by that. So my personal pre-show every Wednesday before Dynamite, or at least sometime during Wednesday, all in a row, I'll watch in this order. Hey EW with RJ City. You can find it on the AEW YouTube page. Then I watch BTE, Being the Elite. You can find that on the Being the Elite page of the Young Bucks on YouTube. Then I watch Dark Elevation, and then I watch Dark, and I finish off with the Control Center hosted by Tony Schiavone. That one's also are the last three all on the AEW YouTube channel. So I watch those all in a row on Wednesday, but Hey EW comes out on Sunday, BTE comes out on Monday, so does Dark Elevation, and then Dark comes out on Tuesday, and the Control Center comes out on Wednesday. I just like to watch everything all at once. So I think that's the format I'm going to do going forward on this preview show, is what I've already done. Although I had a lot more to talk about than usual because of Forbidden Door being on Sunday. So usually it won't take me about 15 minutes to get to this section, but I am going to go through, I'm going to review all 5 of those shows that I watch. And I encourage you guys to start doing this as your pre-show for Dynamite as well. It really gets you in the mood for Dynamite, as well as giving you additional content and storylines, and lets you check on what some of the other roster members are doing going into the live show every Wednesday. So, Hey EW is a newer show on the AEW YouTube page, hosted by RJ City. If you don't know who RJ City was, I didn't either until the show started, and I wish I had known about him beforehand. Once I looked him up, I think he's still a wrestler, but a little bit older. He kind of has some graying hair, but I don't think he's like super old. He's probably like 40. But he was in the, if you remember, David Arquette had a movie about being an independent wrestler, and RJ City was like Arquette's buddy, and was in that movie a lot, and as well as being in an independent. So anyway, RJ City's really funny. He's very charismatic. I hope that we get to see RJ City on AEW television in some capacity at some point in the future. I don't want to see him as a wrestler, maybe more as a manager. There's definitely a lot of people on the roster that could use a charismatic mouthpiece. Just for example, I could see RJ City being a good babyface manager for Dante Martin. Right now, Dante Martin's mouthpiece also can't talk, Matt Sydal, who's also a charisma vacuum, just like Dante Martin. So putting Dante Martin with an RJ City, maybe RJ City can start his own stable. That's definitely something I would do if I was Tony Khan, because look at this. Go watch this AEW. Maybe not the last one. It was one of the my least favorite episodes, but in general, AEW with RJ City is so funny. It's just a quick like 10-minute interview with some random AEW person every week. But RJ said he's just very charismatic. I ended up subscribing to his YouTube page. He's funny on there as well. So RJ Hey EW this Sunday. It comes out every Sunday as a reminder. RJ City's guest on Hey EW was Ruby Soho, and pretty much everything RJ City seemed to say said seemed to have annoyed Ruby a lot. It was kind of funny at first, but the entire interview was just Ruby acting. So I don't think it was like, I don't think she was legitimately mad at and annoyed at RJ City. I think she was just acting like she was, and which made it really bad to watch because Ruby Soho is not a good actor. No offense to her. It's just not her forte, and which made it made it one of the worst AEWs I've ever seen. But anyway, RJ City started the interview off with something pretty funny. He's like, "So Ruby Soho, I noticed you like to stick your tongue out a lot, and I've noticed it looks pretty clean. Do you scrape it?" And Ruby's all like disturbed by this. She's like, "What are you like focusing and zooming in on my tongue?" And RJ City just says like, "Oh well, I mean it's broadcast in 4K and these days and stuff." So ever since then, ever since that point at the very beginning, Ruby Soho just acts like she's annoyed. RJ City suggests she should have been named Ruby Tuesday. That way, if she gets the Rolling Stones and free apps at a restaurant. So because she's Ruby Soho and has an attachment to Rancid, she could have still had an attachment to a band, but this way getting free apps at the TGI Friday. I mean the Ruby Tuesday restaurant, which is kind of funny. But yeah, in general, this was not one of the funnier episodes, one of the better episodes because Ruby just seemed to hate RJ City. It was probably just an act. She's not a great actor. I did laugh out loud when RJ City asked Ruby Soho if she had any tattoos, and Soho was wearing like a very revealing outfit, which just showed tattoos everywhere. So that was funny. And then RJ ends the interview by saying, "Well, Ruby, you've been a riot," and then she storms off. So some funny stuff within there, but kind of annoying because Ruby Soho's a terrible actor, and she spent the entire interview acting instead of just like being herself. Um, but yeah, that they're usually only about 10 minutes long, so definitely watch that every week. That's how I start my pre-show. And then I go into Being the Elite. If you guys have never watched BTE or Being the Elite, it's the Young Bucks show. They've been doing it for years and years. Like the formation of AEW was announced on there, like the name AEW and stuff. So a lot of things that happen on here are very, very silly and random, but a lot of things that happen on BT are kind of canon to the storyline, and a lot of it transfers to the actual television show, such as the Hardys versus Young Bucks rivalry. All of that started on BTE, and among other things. So sometimes you'll get storylines that transfer to TV. Usually, when the Young Bucks have a match, you'll get to see Brandon Cutler from ringside on his camera's point of view, and you get to hear what Cutler says to them. So you get storylines and promos and random funny things. You also get to watch the Young Bucks matches in a different angle than you usually get to see matches. Not the whole match, but like highlights of it. And then usually, not always, there's a BTE championship that gets defended on BTE. And those are, as they call it, the only shoot title in professional wrestling. Uh, they don't work who's going to win. It'll be random games like playing blackjack or rock paper scissors or whatever other contest they can have. So, but maybe they're kayfabing us and they do cheat, and it is fake. But anyway, this week's episode is called 2X, and we all you can quickly figure out what that means, as the Young Bucks just became the only two-time AEW Tag Team Champions. So 2 times is what the 2X stands for. And it starts off with John Silver, Trent Beretta, Daddy Magic, and Jake Hager. A really random foursome, but that's the kind of stuff you get to see on BT. So a lot of what you see on BT is usually the format every week is Brandon Cutler's the guy that records it, and he'll fly out to whatever city that Dynamite's in that week with the Young Bucks. They all come from the same area in California, so we get to see the Young Bucks flying out And then we get to see all kinds of backstage things when they are at Dynamite during the whole day that they're spending there. So this comes out on Mondays, and you always get to see what they were doing backstage and stuff the previous Wednesdays. So, and like I said, some of it is actually weirdly kind of canon and really actually part of the storylines. But yeah, we've got John Silver, Trent Beretta, Daddy Magic, and Jake Hager here, and they're trying to throw a hat onto the handle of a suitcase. And it wasn't very entertaining, to be honest, this segment. Trent ends up beating Daddy Magic in a competition by getting the hat on the handle, and he will face John Silver next week. They don't tell us if it's a hat on the handle or something else, but I'm assuming it'll be the hat on the handle game next week. Hopefully, it's a little bit funnier. Then we see Matt Jackson. He's working out. It's the same day. It's the day of Dynamite. He's got the big. He's talking about how he still gets butterflies in his stomach before big matches because he's got the tag title match later on. So this is before Dynamite, and Matt Jackson's working out at the hotel and said he's ready to climb ladders. So now we're backstage at Dynamite, and we see PP Ray. I was just talking about them. That's Pretty Peter Avalon and Ray Rosas. And then Leva Bates shows up, from the Librarians with Pretty Peter Avalon. And then they tell Ray, her and Pretty Peter Avalon tell Ray that they got drunk in Vegas and married. And Ray is all happy because for like over a month, Ray Rosas has been trying to play wingman for Peter. Peter was like had an on again, off again relationship with Leva Bates, but he wanted to get with her, and now they got drunk and married, and they're happy together apparently. So Ray Rosas is happy, and then we go to the next segment, Dark Order, or you see Chucky T, and he's cutting off heads off the Best Friends T-shirt, all depressed. And Dark Order recently has been trying to recruit Chucky T to join the Dark Order. So again, these storylines actually are like real. Like these are real storylines for AEW. Like, so we haven't seen Chuck Taylor on TV for a long time, but we do know that his like the Best Friends have kind of broken up and stuff like that. So the Dark Order is trying to get Chuck Taylor to join. And Dark Order is here trying to prove that they are perverts, and that would be a reason to join. And it's kind of awkward. Chuck Taylor like is touching Ten's boobs and stuff like that, and they make him put his face in it, and it was awkward. But anyway, the main part of the story is Dark Order is trying to get Chucky T to join. So we might see Chuck Taylor in Dark Order. And I haven't seen Colt Cabana in a while, even on these segments on BTE. But a Chuck Taylor Colt Cabana tag team sounds like a pretty fun tag team. Now we get footage from, or I write down, now it's the footage from last week's tag team title match. I write, this should be great with the alternate angles, and I spoke too soon. But anyway, we see Matt and Nick Jackson about to go out for their match. Matt goes over to the camera and says he's going to do a Shane O'Mac elbow drop through a table. And then, damn, Brandon did not go out with them. There's no footage from this match. I was real disappointed on that one. But when they come back, it sounds like Adam Cole in the background is telling the Young Bucks that was a great match, bro. Like, that was awesome. Nick tells the camera, or Brandon or us, whoever he's talking to. Nick says he might have broke his nose. If you remember, he was all bloody in the face. And the Bucks take pictures with their new titles, and Cutler has to pull chunks of table out of Matt's hair. A little backstage insight that you might not think of, trying to get table pieces out of your hair. Now we see a late night shot of Matt. I think he's in the hotel room, and it's all dark out and stuff. And Matt tells us he's super sore. He's about to take a hot bath, but he really reflects on how big these moments are, especially now that he's in the latter half of his career, that he can really just sit back and appreciate like a big title win here in a really good ladder match and stuff like that. But he says he's also really, really sore. Um, now we are back at the arena backstage, and it's the Dark Order. All of the Dark Order members are there. No Colt Cabana or Anna Jay though, and they're all pondering over all these new guys that have been showing up, like all the New Japan guys. And then they're like, where's this forbidden door that they keep coming through? So Evil Uno wants to find the forbidden door and lock it because he's tired of all these guys coming in and like taking their spots and stuff. Hangman Page then walks by. You know, he's got a long-term association with the Dark Order, but it's been on again, off again recently. Hangman walks by and Dark Order stops him. They ask him what he's doing. And back here in this weird dark part of the arena, Hangman says that I'm just about to get a broom. So definitely a cleaner reference there, a Kenny Omega reference there, and it's confirmed that that's what he meant later on. I'll get there though. Hangman says a heartfelt thanks to the Dark Order. Hangman says I was at rock bottom, but you guys helped me to get the AEW World Title, and then I kind of abandoned you guys. And I really want to apologize and say I'm sorry. So that was a big moment here on BT. And the Dark Order tells him, "Oh, it's fine, bro. Like as long as you're happy." But then Evil Uno speaks up and says, "But it really didn't seem like you were happy when you were champion, Adam." And they say that they hope Hangman can find what makes him happy. And that's when that confirms the thing that's making Hangman Page unhappy is even when he was world champion, it wasn't that fun because he didn't have his friends, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega with him. What good is it? Like he also abandoned his Dark Order friends while doing that too. So, but he did apologize. Hangman apologized for doing that. So big things there. And like I said in the rumor mill earlier, there's a possibility we might see Kenny Omega tonight, and we might get a Kenny Omega match at Forbidden Door. So these storylines with Kenny Omega and Hangman might be kicking off pretty soon here with the whole Adam Cole, Young Bucks, Jay White, Hangman, Kenny Omega. So it's all about the kickoff. We'll see. I'm excited to see where it goes. But at the very end of BTE, like I was saying, Evil Uno wants to find the forbidden door so that they can close it. So they ask Hangman Page, "Do you know where the forbidden door is?" Hangman Page says, "Well, actually, yes, I got a map right here." They open the map and it's just a dick drawn on it, and that's the end of BT. And that's the kind of humor you get on BT. So now I'm going to get into the Elevation and Dark review. Elevation, we've got Excalibur, Mark Henry, and Anthony of Gogo of all people as our announcers. And this was taped in St. Louis before last week's Dynamite. Every Dark Elevation is taped before last week's Dynamite. But usually the announcers are usually Tony Schiavone, Mark Henry, and No More BS Paul White. But this week we get Excalibur, Mark Henry, and Anthony Ogogo, and wow, I really liked what I heard out of Anthony Ogogo. I hope we hear more of him on commentary in the future. But yeah, like I said, this is in St. Louis before last week's Dynamite. So these are like the dark matches before Dynamite, and then after Dynamite, they usually tape Rampage. So Serena Deeb's the first one out. She's got some amazing music, some of the best music in the world, bro. Serena Deeb going hard with that rap. But she's going to team with Mercedes Martinez. They teamed for the first time last week on one of the dark shows. I think it was Elevation. And there was definite tension showed between the two. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see Deeb not only challenge for Mercedes Martinez's Ring of Honor world title, but I think we'll see Serena Deeb holding the Ring of Honor gold really soon. So they're teaming up here. It's the second time ever. Their opponents will be Heather Reckless and Tootie Lynn. And we saw Tootie Lynn last week. It might even have been against Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez, but with a different partner. But apparently, Tootie Lynn might be from the St. Louis area, or at least wrestles in the St. Louis area, because the crowd chants Tootie, Tootie. So that was cool to see. Deeb and Martinez tease tension before the bell even rings. So that's the story of this. Deeb looks amazing in the even in the opening moments. Deeb is just putting on a clinic as soon as the bell rings. Anthony Ogogo says Deeb is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I'm not talking just women's wrestlers. I'm talking men and women. Deeb is one of the best in the world. I completely agree. Serena Deeb probably should have won the title from Thunder Rosa, but I mean, of course, Thunder just got the title, so it's tough. But yeah, I would love to see Deeb get the Ring of Honor title for sure. Like we said, she's one of the best in the world. But yeah, Mercedes tags in at this point, and then we get the double submissions. D puts the Serenity Lock on. Mercedes puts the uh, what was it called? Brass City Sleeper, and both women tap. That's the same. Um, that's the same thing that they did in their last match. So um, yeah, Ogogo's a really good commentator. Deeb hit the detox right before putting the Serenity Lock on, so that was cool. But yeah, that was the same ending we saw last week with them both putting their sleepers, their finisher submissions on and making both opponents tap. So they're weirdly a really good team, but in reality, they're just trying to one up each other, and they just both happen to be good singles. So then we get a graphic for the next match, and I go, "Wow, look at this match!" So this was that first match. Was so. It's good to see Serena Deeb and stuff, but starting from this point on, this ended up being one of the best episodes of Dark Elevation I've ever seen, and it starts right here, and we see a graphic. Next will be Frankie Kazarian versus Andrade El Idolo, and I go, "Wow, this should be good." So Andrade comes up just looking like a stud. Mark Henry even notes that Andrade looks bigger than he's ever been, putting on even more muscle. I write down here that that Charlotte Flair workout plan is definitely doing Andrade some good because Charlotte lives in the gym. This is Kaz's 105th match in AEW. There's not a lot of people that have over 100 matches, and Kaz is one of them. And this match starts out with some great grappling. So again, it's Andrade versus Kaz. Starts out with some great grappling and counterattack wrestling, which is my favorite style of wrestling ever. So I was really into this. Kaz gains the advantage. So Jose, the assistant who came out with Andrade, distracts Kaz. This gets Andrade back in control, and the crowd is giving Jose some crap. And yeah, just like I figured, this ends up being a really, really good match. Go watch this on YouTube. You can find it. On Dark Elevation on the All Elite Wrestling YouTube page. It starts at the 8-minute and 30-second mark. So definitely go watch this. It ends up being one of the better episodes I've ever seen of Dark Elevation. So started at 8:30 and just watch the rest, in my opinion. If you liked what you saw out of the Kaz Andrade match, just keep watching it. But yeah, Frankie might have landed on his head a little bit on one big move, but I think it was just one of those where he made it look like he landed on his head. It was really his shoulders because we've got two really, really veteran wrestlers here in Kaz and Andrade. So they're the types that can make moves, make it look like you fall on your head. Well, in reality, it was much safer than that. Um, but yeah, I'm loving what I'm watching here. We get a cyclone suplex out of Kaz, which looked amazing. Almost wins the match on that. Andrade starts to get in trouble, but he's able to counter into a hammerlock DDT attempt. Kaz is able to counter that, but Andrade counters again right back into the hammerlock DDT and is able to hit it this time. 1, 2, 3. Andrade El Idolo with the big win. And Agogo says that we just watched a Dark Elevation Classic, and I definitely agree. That's the kind of matches you don't normally see on Dark Elevation, but every now and then you do. Like, it's not every time you do, but sometimes they put on just like a really, really good match on there. And this is one of them. So go watch this. Next, we see two people that debuted on AEW Dark or Dark Elevation last week, and it was Max the Impaler and Heidi Hollitzer, who both lost in separate singles matches. Now they're going to team up together, which is not surprising to me because I did seem to notice that they had similar gimmicks. Max the Impaler and Heidi Hollitzer both kind of are wearing like leather like outfits, like not like the um and then they got like face paint on and stuff. So they are gonna form a tag team here. And I looked it up. They are a tag team on the independent scene called the Wasteland War Party. So this is Max the Impaler and Heidi Hollitzer. And so that should be pretty good. They're gonna face the team of Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir. I think this is their debut as a team. And when Marina Shafir comes out, she breaks her normally. She's like stone face and like completely focused and has no emotion in her. But when she sees Nyla, who came out first and was waiting for her on the ramp, she shoots Nyla like a cheeky smile. I thought that was pretty funny, as if like Marina knew that, oh, here's someone that I know that we can just go cause some damage and wreck some fools. So that was pretty cool for Marina. It showed some character. The match starts with Nyla Rose and Max the Impaler in there. So here in Pride Month, we've got a trans woman and Nyla and a non-binary with Max the Impaler starting out. So that's pretty cool. Agogo is very knowledgeable and full of charisma on commentary. So I hope we get to see Anthony Agogo on commentary more often. Marina then tags in. She tries to choke Max out, but Max is much bigger and is able to overpower her. We get a diamond duster by Nyla, which, if you don't know what that is, it was nasty looking. It's from the middle rope, a blockbuster, but inverted. So instead of falling on your back, you fall on your face. Really cool looking move. And that was able to take down the big Max the Impaler. Heidi's able to get a tag team in now and gets caught in Marina's submission called Greedy, which is a arm bar and leg bar at the same time. And Excalibur tells us that Marina calls this greedy because she's just being greedy with grabbing more than one limb to break at the exact same time. So I like the name of that and the premise of that. Um, Max the Impaler comes in to save Heidi, but Nyla with a huge spear on Max the Impaler. That was a really cool looking move. And Heidi's able to tap out. So great match here. I much more preferred. This was the most fun I've had watching a Nyla Rose match in a long time. I was really getting sick of watching her beat up Sky Blue and all the Josie wrestlers week after week without any of them ever getting any offense on Nyla. Not that Max the Impaler and Heidi Hollister were able to get much offense on Nyla either, but just it was like that spear on Max, who's just as big, if not bigger than Nyla, was amazing to watch. So much preferred that over. I'm so glad I didn't have to watch Nyla versus Sky Blue this week. Although maybe Sky Blue had a really, when I was talking about Marina Shafir having stiff matches lately, she had a super stiff match against Sky Blue. I'm not sure if we've seen Sky Blue ever since. I might be wrong, but whew, I could tell that was a really stiff match where she was beating the crap out of Sky Blue. So maybe AEW gave her the week off, or maybe something else was going on. Next, it's going to be Swerve in Our Glory. This is the first time we've seen this tag team since the Battle Royal, where Swerve eliminated Keith Lee. And if you remember last week, I think it was on Dynamite, they had a little promo where it certainly seemed like Keith Lee was not in the forgiving mood. Swerve said, "You would have done the same to me, bro," and stuff like that. And then Swerve was like, "I thought we were going to be Shaq and Kobe." But Keith Lee seemingly isn't done with him yet, but is over it because the crowd erupts for Swerve when he first makes his entrance, but then they get even louder when Keith Lee comes out. Swerve tries to slap high fives with Keith Lee, but Keith Lee just walks right by him without even looking at him. So you can tell here what Keith Lee's thinking. Agogo tells us that he has something to do and leaves commentary. So that was disappointing because Agogo was having a great night on commentary. Let me blow my nose real quick. Sorry about that. I can breathe again. All right, but yeah, Keith Lee just walks right by Swerve. Agogo tells us he has something to do and leaves, which was disappointing. Agogo was having a great night on commentary. The opponents for Swerve in Our Glory is going to be Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett. And I'm pretty sure we just saw these two on Rampage not that long ago, getting killed by somebody. Vega and Fitchett get a double team move on Swerve. Keith tags in blindly and destroys Vega. Then a giant Keith Lee Beal onto Vega, who tosses Vega right into Fitchett. So that was a great looking move. Swerve wants to hit a double team, but Keith Lee ignores him and hits the power bomb for the win. And there's definitely a load of tension between these two, Swerve and Keith Lee. The surprises tonight continue because Rebel will be in action next against Anna Jay. This has to be her first match in like a year, and at the very least, her first singles match in a year. So I'm not quite sure why Rebel's here, but I was excited to see her, even though I know she's not that great of a wrestler. As far as I know, Rebel is the hair and makeup person, or at least the makeup person for AEW, which is why Rebel's always there. and she comes out the Dr. Britt Baker's music. So the crowd like started to cheer, and then they were like, "Oh," when it was just Rebel. I was like, "Oh no!" And to make matters worse, um, in the first 30 seconds, there's like a little bit of mistiming issue from Rebel, not too big though, but right after that, we get a giant kick to Rebel's face from Anna Jay. Locks in the Queen Slayer, tap out. Anna Jay wins in 30 seconds. Thanks for coming, Rebel. God damn. All right, so again, we get another nice surprise because Tony Nese will fight Warhorse next. So if you guys don't know who Warhorse is, he's kind of similar in the vein of Danhausen kind of made a name for himself being a character and stuff like that. Warhorse's character is kind of a parody off of 80s metal and 80s, kind of like the Ultimate Warrior, except he's kind of small. He's bigger than Danhausen, but still kind of small, but acts like he's huge and like a metal guy. And so pretty entertaining stuff. Instead of like acting like he's Eddie Munster, if you're not really a Danhausen guy, but you might give this guy a chance. Anyway, we saw Warhorse last week and a couple other times in AEW. I think he was there during the pandemic and stuff. So cool surprise nonetheless, even though I think we saw Warhorse last week. Warhorse gets the crowd pumped. They definitely know who he is. Tony Nese goes to shake hands, but then turns on Warhorse. Surprise, surprise. Warhorse is able to take down Nese, and then the crowd loves it. So they're firmly behind Warhorse here. Yeah. Warhorse then hits a missile drop kick and a headbutt into the corner pad. So that was cool. Nese is in trouble, but he rakes the eyes to get back in the control. And then he gets Warhorse set up in the corner in a sitting position. Tony Nese hits the running knee, the same one that beat Danhausen. 1, 2, 3. Tony Nese wins. Warhorse did get close there in that match. It wasn't like the Danhausen match where it was over in 30 seconds, or the damn Rebel match just before that. So Ruby Soho is out next. She's going to fight Miranda Gordy. We saw Miranda Gordy last week as well. I think she was the one that teamed with Tootie Lynn. And Gordy is, if the Gordy name sounds familiar, yes, she is the daughter of Terry Gordy, which means she's also the sister of Slam Master Jay, or Biscuits and Gravy Jesse. And unfortunate for her, she looks like her father in the face. No offense. But yeah, she also is very big and kind of has the Terry Gordy body, which means she looks like she can kick your butt for sure. Um, Definitely would like to watch her progression in the business. They brawl, so it's Ruby Soho and Miranda Gordy. They brawl into the ring. Miranda Gordy drop kicked Ruby from behind during her entrance, so now they're outside the ring. They brawl a little bit, get back in the ring and brawl. Miranda chops the soul out of Ruby's chest. That fires Ruby up, and she counters. She counters four. So Ruby Soho counters 4 different strikes in a row. This is a really good flurry, or like, I don't know what I want to call it, but 4 strikes in a row to take down Miranda. Miranda avoids a top rope move, but Ruby gains control right back. Anyway, Destination Unknown, Ruby Soho's finisher, wins the match. And while I note that this is just a well above average episode of Dark Elevation at this point, like even that match was pretty good. So we're told the main event, we get the graphic, is going to be QT Marshall versus Matt Sydal. And at first I was thinking, oh well, I mean, this sounds like a little bit of a letdown for a main event, considering the matches we saw earlier. Like, why wasn't Andrade versus Kaz the main event or something? But we find out our answer in a little bit. But first, QT is joined by Aaron Solo, Nick Camarado, and Anthony Ogogo. So that's apparently where Anthony Ogogo had to go to. And yep, I forgot we were in. This was taped in St. Louis. Matt Sydal's music hits and the crowd goes crazy. I forgot we were in St. Louis. The hometown hero from St. Louis, Missouri, Matt Sydal, comes out. So the crowd's just going nuts at this point. Nobody came out to watch Sydal's back, namely no Dante Martin with him. So I expect to see a lot of cheating from the factory boys on the outside. That's what Anthony Ogogo was like, I got some business to attend to earlier. So that's what I'm expecting here. Sydal hits a beautiful Tejaras to start us off. But then QT uses his QT uses his size to gain control. Seidel is able to hit the slice bread, or not the slice bread, but just the slice, aka it's the Big Show's final cut. QT is able to kick out of that. Seidel then goes to the top, but QT meets him up there. Seidel counters it with a head scissors from the top, so that was cool. QT then throws Seidel into the ropes, and Aaron Solo gets a cheap shot on Seidel. And by throwing him into the ropes, I think it was like throat first. Then Aaron Solo of the factory gets a cheap shot on Seidel. Crowd's booing, and then they rally behind Seidel, who is inspired by the crowd's cheers, counters QT to gain control again. But then Aaron Solo grabs the leg of Seidel when he goes for a run off the rope. So QT gets back on top of on this. The crowd's chanting QT sucks. Seidel counters again, but this time Nick Camarado grabs his leg. But fortunately for Seidel, the ref sees it this time and kicks all 3 members of the factory out. Thanks for coming, Anthony Ogogo. Like I said, Anthony Ogogo was on fire on commentary, and then he never even interfered in this match. Why did Anthony Ogogo have to leave? Anyway, everybody's out of here. Seidel hits a massive Meteora to a standing QT from the top rope. We get a roundhouse kick, a shotgun drop kick into the corner. QT kicks out at 2. QT fights back a little bit and calls for the diamond cutter. Seidel is able to counter. One thing, a quick note, by the way, QT Marshall, nobody has ever kicked out of QT Marshall's diamond cutter in AEW. He doesn't hit it that often and loses most of his matches, but if he hits it, nobody's kicked out yet. That's something to keep in mind. Maybe there'll be a big pop when someone kicks out of it. But yeah, we get a big pop for an elbow strike for by QT, or no, it was a big not pop because Seidel was the hometown hero, but one of those pop-up moves. QT's mostly been doing the pop-up punch, which is now Anthony Ogogo's finisher, but QT does an elbow strike this time instead. And Seidel is able to counter a power bomb. So QT's looking to end it with a power bomb, countered by a Hurricanrana into a pin. 1, 2, 3. Matt Seidel gets the win in front of his hometown, and that was the end of Elevation. And like I've been saying, you have to go watch this episode of Elevation. It was one of the best ones I've ever seen. It's a little bit of downer to go to AEW Dark this week's recorded from Universal Studios. I meant to look up when, but I think it was only a couple of weeks ago. AEW Dark that comes out on Tuesdays. So the other one was at Dark Elevation. This one's just Dark. This one comes out on Tuesdays. It's usually recorded a week or two beforehand at Universal Studios Orlando, Florida, and Excalibur and Taz are pretty much always the announcers. So this one's usually never as good as Elevation. When they do have live rampages, then you get before that live rampage, Dark is recorded. But if that's not the case, you get these Universal Studios shows. The matches at the Universal Studios shows are usually much shorter, but you usually get to see a lot of people. So there's a lot more job matches and squash matches, but you get to see a lot of people all in a row. So that's how this episode ends up going. So I won't spend too much time. Most of the matches are just squash matches. So I just point out the stuff that's notable. But yeah, coming off of that Dark Elevation, a little bit of a letdown to watch this Dark. But by the end, I was enjoying it. So Max Caster is the first one out. He's got Anthony Bones with him in a wheelchair. Really good rap about his opponent's weird hair. He compared him to a whack-looking Cat Williams. Called him Count Blackula because he had red highlights in his hair. So Max Caster's opponent is his name is Trevor Eon. He's got, and like I said, wild hair and red contacts in. Max is in control, but a really nice snap suplex by Trevor Eon gets him in control for a little bit. The crowd is truly behind Max Caster, who counters and then strikes to get into control. We get a big side suplex, and Trevor Eon's in control. Off of that side suplex, we get a mic drop, 1, 2, 3, and Max Caster with the big win. Anthony Bones is hyped on the outside, and the crowd is happy. So next we've got Serpentico versus Vari Morales. Vari Morales we haven't seen in a long time, so I looked it up. He has not wrestled on Dark since September of 2021, and at least according to CageMatch.com, Vari only had one match a week after that in September and hasn't wrestled again or didn't wrestle again until May. So maybe Vari got a little bit of an injury, or Vari Morales just wrestles in such small independent shows that it wasn't on the database. Either way, we haven't seen Morales in a long time. Serpentico comes in with a 12-82 record, so Serpentico has to win this match. Vari comes in with an AEW record of 0-6, and like I said, he last wrestled on Dark in September. No Luther for like either the second or third time in a row for Serpentico. I'm not quite sure what Luther's been up to, but he hasn't been joining Serpentico lately. Serpentico has the size and strength advantage for once in this match, and Serpentico is able to use his size to stay in control. He hits the Got style neutralizer, the Cesaro finisher, and Serpentico gets the big win. So Serpentico improves his record to a 13-82 mark. We go to the back, so sometimes, especially on these dark shows at Universal Studios, they will give us a little bit of promo interviews in the back, and they have a tiny bit of storyline. Nothing huge and nothing that'll have any implications past that show you're watching, but it's nice to have nonetheless. So we're in the back and we see Blake Christian. Now, if you don't know who Blake Christian is, he spent a tiny cup of coffee, you could say, in NXT, but ever since then, it's just been killing it in the independent scene. Most notably GCW, as well as Impact Wrestling, and couple other things. I think I list them off later, but yeah, Blake Christian's been killing it with great matches everywhere he goes. And we're told that he will wrestle Jay Lethal in tonight's main event of Dark, so that's going to be a great main event. Blake cuts a really decent promo here. I didn't know he could also cut a good promo. I didn't know that about him. He has what I like about his promo is he has a really, really good cadence. He almost sounds like he's one of those, like, you go to a hipster kind of bar and they're snapping, and I got a poem to read to you, and I got a really good cadence to my poem, and it's so he does his voice. I put on a voice, but he didn't put on that voice, but he just had a really good cadence, like it was a poetry flowing, and I like that out of that. I didn't expect that out of Blake Christian. If he can do that combined with what he already does in the ring, Blake Christian could be a major star going forward for the next decade. But yeah, he cuts a decent promo. Blake says that he knows Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt are probably going to be there to help Lethal, but Blake is all heart and he's not worried. And that is Blake Christian's nickname, All Heart. So we go back to the ring now. Chris Statlander's on her way out to some big cheers. She faces Ava Everett, a former XWX champion in Germany, and she's a regular there despite being from Massachusetts. So Ava Everett here, a German regular. 3 years as a pro. She was trained by Anthony Green, another regular of AEW Dark. Chris starts out strong here, Statlander that is, and has a lot of power moves. So good showcase of Chris Statlander's power moves here. Ava gets no offense in this match. Big spinning Falcon Arrow pinning combination for the win. And Excalibur says that Chris Statlander looks like she might be the next TBS champion. So we'll have to see. That might be the next challenger. It also looks like Athena is also a challenger too for the TBS championship. If I was to pick between those two as who has the better chance to beat Jade Cargill, I would say Chris Statlander. But I also think that Jade Cargill is probably going to retain the title against both of them. And I could definitely see Jade Cargill keeping the TBS title all the way up until she wins the women's world title. Maybe that's our match for All Out, is Jade Cargill versus Thunder Rosa, winner take all. Unless Tony Storm beats her in 4 days. Anyway, next is the Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds. And they're going to take on the Wingmen's Pretty Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi. Evil Uno and 10 join the Dark Order members for their entrance, but then they go to the back before the match starts. And then Pretty Peter and Cesar Bononi come out alone, so no other wingmen with them. The crowd chants Johnny Hungy, but it kind of sounded to me like Bobby Lashley. Like at first I'm like, are they chanting Bobby Lashley? No, they're chanting Johnny Hungy. I don't know. Like you wouldn't think Johnny Hungy and Bobby Lashley sound similar, but when crowds chant things, you could almost. There was one thing I saw. It was like an English soccer chant, football chant, and then it showed like 15 different things. Like, do you hear this? Do you hear this? Do you hear this? And if you're just looking at each individual 15 thing, even though you hear the same chant over and over, it sounds like whatever you're reading. Like it was all kinds of silly stuff. Like it's hard to explain, but hopefully you know what I'm saying. And that was just something I was desperate for content on this dark to say. But anyway, Johnny Hungee tries a suplex the much larger Cesar Bononi. Cesar might be a full foot taller than Johnny Hungee. Cesar is just a beast, and you can go back to my review last week of Dark. Cesar was just looking like a beast as well. So maybe I can definitely. Cesar Bononi's definitely green in the ring. If you don't know who he is, he's part of the Wingmen. He's from Brazil, and he's like 6'6", 283 pure muscle, something like that. Maybe 300 pounds of pure muscle. He is a giant guy. Um, he's got a good mustache too. But Johnny Hungee tries to suplex the much larger Benoni, but fails. Cesar with a pair of suplexes to both Dark Order members. And Taz then notes that Cesar and Pretty Peter kind of look like they could be father and son, or like Peter looks like a mini me version of Cesar Bononi, which was pretty funny. Cesar continues to be the best person in this match out of all four of them, but then John Silver is able to get that suplex on Cesar. And then Alex Silver reverses a pin into a pin of his own for the 1-2-3 on Pretty Peter Avalon. So the Dark Order win, and Peter gives a really good like shocked face, like he couldn't believe it. That was pretty funny. All of a sudden, Hollywood Hunk, Ryan Nemeth, and JD Drake appear for the first time tonight, and they take out the two Dark Order members. But Evil Uno and 10 are able to make the save. So maybe that's a match on. I'm assuming that's a match we'll see on next week's Dark. It'll be Evil Uno and 10 versus JD Drake and the Hollywood Hunk Ryan Nemeth, who is Dolph Ziggler's brother for anybody new to the AEW. Well, I guess not even new. A lot of people don't follow Dark and Dark Elevation and probably couldn't tell you who the heck the Wingmen are, let alone who's in it. Anyway, we go to the back now, and now we're talking to Jay Lethal, and he's got Sanjay and Satnam Singh with them. No interviewer with them. It's just those three on their own. Jay's laughing at the fact that people are saying Blake Christian is lighting up the wrestling world. He thinks Blake Christian's a joke or whatever. And then Sanjay cuts a really passionate promo, yelling and passionate. I like this out of Sanjay. And it's basically just about they're going to crush Blake's dreams and everybody else's dreams. And Satnam just looks intimidating. Now Brock Anderson's out with his father, Arn Anderson. He's got new music and a new video screen that the music sounded pretty cool. And Brock Anderson will team up with the Varsity Blondes. That's Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. And then all three have matching maroon trunks. So maybe a new trio forming here. There's definitely rumors, not more than rumors. We're pretty much sure that the trio titles in AEW have already been created, which is even more unfortunate reason why we don't need the All Atlantic title. We'd much prefer the trios title than the All Atlantic. It looks like we're getting both, but at this point, it's just like everyone was like, when the All Atlantic title came out, everyone's like, too many titles, man. There's way too many. But anyway, Arn does have a lot of history with Brian Pillman's father in the Four Horsemen, if you remember. So interesting here that he's managing both his son and Brian's son here, as well as Griff Garrison. Their opponents are the ragtag crew of Larry Lizard, Jay Lucas, and Terry Yaki. Yes, first name Terry, last name Yaki. And I laughed good on that one, and so did Taz and Excalibur. One thing, I didn't really write down all the quips and notes of Excalibur and Taz, but these dark shows are pretty much just the Taz and Excalibur weekly podcast where they barely, like, they spend half the time not even calling the matches because it's pretty much just squash matches anyway. So they just talk about whatever, or maybe one of the jobbers has like a funny gimmick, and then they just go off on a tangent about something Taz did, or Taz say a funny story about like him sitting next to Bryce Remsburg in a bar, and Bryce says something to Taz, and Taz doesn't even realize that they work together until Bryce Remsburg like explains it, and Taz didn't even know who that was. He thought it was some fan or some random guy or something. So that's the kind of stuff you usually get on Dark. Is I just call it the Taz and Excalibur podcast that just happens to have squash matches in the background. But yeah, going back to this match, it was Brock Anderson teaming up with the Varsity Blondes against Larry Lizard, Jay Lucas, and Terry Yaki. So yeah, all three of these jobbers, they all trained in the Nightmare Factory and then had a little bit of training at the WWA Ford School as well. So we've last seen Jerry and Terry. They lost to Hobbs and Starks about a month ago, and Brock Anderson and the Varsity Blondes are making a lot of quick tags to stay in control. Brock Anderson gets caught in the wrong corner, but is able to fight out, get the tag. Griff Garrison comes in with like a house on fire, throwing everybody around. Like they all looked super small compared to Griff. Griff definitely looks like he's been working out hard, putting some muscle on that frame. And Brian and Brock come to take out the other two, and then they all do a triple team on the legal man to pick up the win. So pretty fun match to watch there. Next one is Diamante. She'll take on Devlin Macabre, as in like the dark and death kind of macabre. And then Dasha, unfortunately, I don't think English is her first language, but it's still, even if English is her first language, it's a common mistake. She says macabre instead of macabre, and then Excalibur laughs on her on the air, saying Dasha didn't get the memo. So that was really funny. That's also some of the stuff you get on Dark that's really entertaining. But anyway, Diamante takes control early and is just wrecking Devlin with really big and high impact moves. Devlin Macabre's able to fight back and gets a kick to the knee for a 2 count. Diamante gets control right back and hits 3 Germans. Devlin's now tied up in a straight jacket crossface and is forced to tap out, or at least verbally submit. Her arms were a little busy, and Diamante with the win. So Diamante week after week racks up big wins. She never gets on regular TV. I don't know why Marina Shafir passed Diamante on the depth chart. We get to see Marina Shafir on Dynamite, but we never get to see Diamante. And if it's about the looks, I mean, they're both about the same in the looks category. So I don't know what Tony's beef is with Diamante. But I would, you know what I would love to see? I'm not a huge fan of intergender wrestling, but I would love to see Diamante in that blood and guts match, because she's just, she's in that uh Eddie Kingston, Santana and Ortiz like mode. They're cut from the same cloth, so I would love to see Diamante as part of that match. And I'm not even a big fan of intergender wrestling. Tony Nese is coming out next. He's accompanied by his manager, Smart Mark Sterling. I love that name, Smart Mark Sterling. If you don't know, then you're not a smart Mark. His opponent is JDX, who we've seen before. He's got an 0-3 record, but we haven't seen him since last October against Dante Martin. He's from Chicago, and I'm pretty sure JDX is an associate or like a friend of Captain Sean Dean and Charlie Bravo, who are one of the lower level teams on the Impact roster. And Sean Dean also from Chicago. So I think JDX is friends with them if we ever needed a jobber trios team for when we get the trios division going. And this match will be consisted under pure rules, we're told. So immediately before having to be told anything, that tells me that Tony Nese must be next in line for Wheeler Yuta's ROH Pure Championship. And spoiler alert, that will be a thing, and it sounds like it will be next week on Dark. So that's a really good match to look forward to. But yeah, Tony Nese yells at the referee that JDX pushed him into the rope, but the referee disagrees, and Nese is now down to 2 rope breaks. So there's a lot of, it's not too complicated with the pure rules, but the main things to note are you only get 3 rope breaks, and then if you use up your 3 rope breaks, you can hold the rope all you want. They don't have to let go of the submission. And one of the other things is no closed fists and stuff like that. So Tony Nese already without one of his or already down one of his rope breaks. But Tony Nese wins within 3 minutes. So Tony Schiavone then gets into the ring. He says, "Congratulations to Tony Nese." Smart Mark grabs the microphone and says, "It's time for Tony Nese to wear gold," and challenges Wheeler Yuta to a title match next week. And spoiler alert, Yuta accepts that challenge, and we will see a Ring of Honor pure title match next week on Dark. We're in the back now, so a lot of promos this week. That was pretty cool. In the back, we've got Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez, with interviewer Lexi Nair, and this was great because we've seen Serena Deeb and Mercedes Martinez team up twice in the last 2 weeks, but we haven't heard from them. So Lexi says, "Well, this is an unlikely pairing, but you guys seem to be a good team." Mercedes is about to talk, but Deeb butts in right before her and says, uh, says, "I'm a lone wolf, but Mercedes is one of the best in the world, so I don't mind it for right now." Mercedes then tells Deeb that she respects Deeb, but don't cross the OG badass, which is the nickname of Mercedes Martinez. So that'll be next. They will team up, or they will go up against Yachty and Anna Diaz or Diaz. And Serena Deeb has some of the best music in wrestling. Go look up her theme. Diaz and Yachty are both 5-year pros. Diaz trained by Gangrel, and Yachty spent a lot of time in, or has been spending a lot of time in WWC, the big Puerto Rican promotion. This is the exact same match we've already seen twice in an 8-day span. So 3 times in an 8-day span, not really exciting. It's the same match I described from earlier on Impact, where Mercedes and Deeb one up each other while dominating the other two. They both lock in the submission finishers. Both opponents tap out, and then they stare each other down. Mercedes holds the title up, and that segment ends. Um, it was nice to actually get to hear them cut the promo this time, but I didn't need to see that match 3 times in 8 days, the exact same match. So I guess it's there for people that don't watch every week, and maybe they caught one of the 3 matches and now they know that those two are a team, and then they have a thing going. But for someone that watches them all, it was the exact same match 3 times in a row. We got Wheeler Yuta in the back now, and Tony Schiavone asks Wheeler what his answer to Tony Nese's challenge is. Yuta says that, well, I know Nese wouldn't accept this challenge if it was one day before Blood and Guts, but I'm not Tony Nese. And Yuta says that no one can touch him under pure rules. He's going to beat Nese and have major momentum going into Blood and Guts. So that'll be a really good match. And I assume Yuta will win, but you never know. Maybe Nese gets the upset. The main event is the only match left, and it's next. It should be a great match. It's going to be Blake Christian versus Jay Lethal. 2 really, really good wrestlers. Blake Christian comes in with a 1-0 record. He beat Rohit Raju back in March on Dark, and he's been tearing it up in GCW, Impact, NJPW Strong, and Warrior Wrestling, among others. So just one of the best wrestlers on the independent scene right now. Lethal's out. He's got Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh with him, and Taz completely marks out for Satnam Singh's all bright purple suit. Almost looks like a 7-foot tall Barney, the dinosaur. Like it was awesome looking as far as gimmicky and hilarious. Blake gains control, but Sanjay and Satnam distract Blake, so it's going to be one of those kind of matches. But it's really, really good match. Go and watch this. They showcase a ton of moves. I did not write everything down. They get a ton of moves in a short amount of time. This match starts at about the 54th minute. So you can go to AEW Dark from June 21st yesterday and start it at about 54 minutes in, around 54 minutes in, and watch this Blake Christian versus Jay Lethal match. It's really the only match worth of note. If you want to start a little bit earlier, you can see a couple minutes earlier, you can see the Yuta promo if you're interested in that as well. But yeah, go watch this Blake Christian versus Jay Lethal match, and they battle back and forth, showcasing their deep move sets. We get a lot of great counters as well, innovative counters. Sanjay tries to distract again, but then this time gets taken out by Blake. Lethal then gets the knees up to counter a springboard 450 attempted by Blake. So Jay gets some control off of that. Lethal combination hits, and then Jay goes up, hits the picture perfect Macho Man elbow drive, dive, 1, 2, 3. Jay Lethal with in my opinion somewhat of an upset in my mind anyway. Jay Lethal's much more experienced and much more the veteran, but I thought Jay Lethal was going to lose this match. It was definitely not a clean win, so there is that. But go watch this match. It's a definite showcase if you've been wondering what Blake Christensen's been all about. So that was the end of Dark. the last show of my 5 shows that I watch every week before Dynamite on Wednesday. So again, it's Hey EW, then it's BTE being the Elite, Dark Elevation, Regular Dark, and then I end with the Control Center. And as far as I know, the Control Center, which is just a preview for that week's Dynamite, as far as I know, the Control Center gives you the exact same content as the Road to um show that also comes on YouTube. They're about the same amount of length, but the Control Center has Tony Schiavone hosting it, so that's the reason I watch it. It reminds me of the old school, like Mean Gene in the Control Center telling us the latest person that's in the Royal Rumble that year and stuff like that. Road 2 comes out on Tuesday, and then Control Center comes out on Wednesday. These are on the All Elite Wrestling YouTube page. And you usually get some promos for the matches coming up that you won't get to see on TV. So that's why these are worth the watch. This one wasn't quite as good, but I'll let you know what happened. Tony tells us that Will Ospreay will defend his title against Orange Cassidy at the pay-per-view. And then we go to a video package about that. Excalibur's talking now. So if they don't have promos from the people, usually you'll get some pretty good quotes and stuff. Excalibur will talk about and preview these matches himself. So Excalibur says when Kenny Omega left New Japan Pro Wrestling behind, he left it in the hands of both Jay White and Will Ospreay to pick up where Kenny left off. And Tony tells us that so that was the end of that preview. Then Tony says that tonight is Malachi Black, and that was the preview for the 6-man tag. It's Will Ospreay, the Aussie Open versus I think Trent Beretta and FTR. No, Orange Cassidy's definitely in that match, so I don't know who he's teaming with. Maybe FTR. I'll have to go look before I get off the air, but Tony tells us that also tonight it's Malachi Black versus Pentagon Obscuro. Then we get the video package for that one. And Excalibur says this match is going to be much more than just for the All Atlantic title. It's a rivalry that goes back 6 months. Add the title on top of all that, and that makes it a super intense situation. And this is a really good video package with a really like weird, creepy, but awesome sounding song. And you get, I think we saw the promo from the House of Black last week, but we get that, and we also get to hear from Pentagon, who but yeah, this video really gets you hype. Excalibur says that the House of Black won't want to let the Death Triangle have 2 guys in that 4-way, which they won't, as we know. Pentagon is banned from Forbidden Door. But Pentagon says through his translator, Alex, that Malachi is nothing but a clown impersonating a bad guy. And Tony then, that was the end of that. So really good video package there for the what I think is the main event tonight. So Tony talks about Jericho and Archer versus Moxley and Tanahashi. He notes that the main eventers in 4 days will be teaming with each other tonight. The 2 in the main event fighting each other, which of course is Tanahashi and John Moxley. And that he also notes that Jericho have recently formed an alliance with Suzuki Gun, and that's why Lance Archer is his partner. So we get a little video package about that as well. Then we're told on August 10th, there's going to be a special event Dynamite called in Minnesota called Quake at the Lake. And then after Rampage this Friday, there will be a Countdown the Forbidden Door show also on TNT. So don't forget to set your DVRs. Mine's already set to record all the Countdown shows. And that's all I've got. Let me go make a quick jaunt over to the All Elite Twitter page just to make sure we don't have anything added to the match tonight. Holy crap. So we do have a match added tonight. Former AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page wants an IWGP World Title shot at Forbidden Door tonight. Hangman will reignite an old rivalry from ROH when he goes one-on-one with former ROH television champion, the last real man, Silas Young. Wow, I did not expect Silas Young. Silas Young has no affiliation, or not really an affiliation with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's very unexpected. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that at all. That should be a great match. Let's see if anything else. So yeah, Bryan Danielson's set to appear, and hopefully it tells us that he's fighting Zack Sabre Jr., but I'm not gonna hold my breath. And yeah, don't forget the Christian Cage. It's probably gonna have an amazing promo, and it was Will Ospreay and Aussie Open versus Orange Cassidy and Roppongi Vice. I think we'll start the night out with the Jericho Archer versus Moxley Tanahashi match. I think the main event will be Pentagon El Squirrel versus Malachi Black. And like I said, I think it's probably 50-50 at this point if Bryan Danielson's going to tell us he has to miss those two events or he'll tell us that he'll be there. So that's cool. The one thing that was added from what we originally previewed was this match here, Hangman Page versus Silas Young. I'm looking forward to that. That should be a good match, even if it's short. If you've never seen Silas Young before, he's just like an old school style of wrestler. So that should be a good clash of styles and a really good one. And yeah, I do definitely expect a ton of surprises on top of that. So I expect we'll get at least two more matches announced. Or I'm thinking two more matches announced, and then we'll also find out who Jay White will be defending the IWGP World Heavyweight title against. I'm gonna get going pretty soon, but yeah, don't forget we might see Kenny Omega tonight. Young Bucks do not have a match yet, so there's no telling if there's going to be a Young Bucks and um, Kenny Omega segment tonight or anything could happen. So I'm really looking forward to it. We're only an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes away, hour and 18 to be exact. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I'll be on as soon as Dynamite ends. I'll be back to give us the review, and I'll talk about everything that happens. We'll break it down, and we'll break down the Forbidden Door card as well. So I hope to see you guys there. Thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a regular occurrence. I hope that we can make it a big thing and have a community here live so that we can all talk about stuff together. And I'll be able to post your comments up here like that, like this. Hey EW. So yeah, I'm hoping we can build a nice little community here on this channel. So give me a thumbs up and maybe share it with your friends if you find this, because I'm doing some good work, but um, I haven't been able to find people to get here yet. And yeah, once we find a community, we'll be able to maybe I'll start it at like 6:30 every week, and we'll do like an hour and a half hanging out before EW starts, and then we'll come back on afterward. I'm not really a guy that wants to do a watch along. I like to study the show as I'm watching it. But I'm gonna get going. I'll be back in a few hours after Dynamite. Let's hope for the best. Cross our fingers that Bryan Danielson is not injured and he'll be able to fight Zack Sabre Jr. at the pay-per-view. But if not, I won't hold it against anybody. I'm not gonna hold it against Tony Khan for teasing it or anything like that. I just really hope it happens. So I'll talk to you guys in a few hours. Let's hope Dynamite's amazing. Don't worry about the ratings. The ratings are going to get better after Forbidden Doors. So just watch the show for your own enjoyment. Who cares about the ratings at this point? Like I said, we're not in any danger of AEW being canceled or shutting down. And like I gave you all the reasons earlier, it was just a lot of information for people to take. IWGP this and NWP that, and who's this United Empire, and what is this Rev Pro title, and oh my God, now we got another singles title. It's called All Atlantic, and all this stuff that was just really overloading people's brains. So they probably figured they would just go enjoy the start of summer for a couple of weeks and on their Wednesday nights. And I assume they'll be back for Blood and Guts here in my hometown of Detroit next week. So I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Peace.